In 284 CE, out of a century of chaos and near collapse, a new emperor emerged, Diocletian. Unlike many of his predecessors, Diocletian understood that Rome's greatest dangers did not come primarily from foreign enemies, but from deep internal weaknesses. The empire, he believed, could not simply be defended. It had to be rebuilt. He therefore set out to reconstruct the Roman state from the ground up. His first and most consequential step was to claim the authority necessary to impose sweeping reform. In doing so, Diocletian formally ended the last lingering illusions of the old republic. Where Augustus had carefully preserved republican forms and ruled as princeps, the first citizen, Diocletian ruled openly as dominus, the master. From this point forward, historians describe the Roman government not as the principate, but as the dominate, an autocratic system in which the emperor's power was absolute and undisguised. Diocletian also transformed the very image of imperial rule. He emphasized distance, majesty, and mystery, deliberately separating the emperor from the population. He rarely appeared in public and wore elaborate robes adorned with jewels. Those who were granted an audience were forbidden to look directly at him and were required to kneel and kiss the hem of his robe before speaking. His residence was no longer simply a palace, but the sacred palace, and Diocletian claimed divine appointment as the source of his authority. The Roman Senate, once the heart of the state, was reduced to little more than a municipal council, exercising influence only within the city itself. In practice, Diocletian ruled alone over an immense and highly centralized bureaucratic empire. Political reform was only the beginning. Diocletian recognized that Rome's survival depended on restoring order to the army and stability to the economy. He began by restructuring the military. The army was divided into two main components: permanent frontier troops stationed along the borders and mobile field armies that could be rapidly dispatched to respond to crises. Discipline and training were restored, and the system ensured that forces could be moved quickly to whichever frontier faced the greatest threat. These reforms helped end decades of military chaos and civil war, yet even the strongest army required a stable economic foundation. To support military reform, Diocletian sought to create a predictable and reliable tax base. He ordered censuses every 5 years instead of every 15, allowing the state to track population and resources more closely. To prevent economic collapse, Diocletian attempted an unprecedented experiment, freezing Roman society in place. Farmers were bound to their land and forbidden to leave. Civil servants passed their positions onto their children. Business owners were not allowed to close or relocate their shops. The goal was stability through immobility, to lock each person into a fixed economic role so the state could reliably extract taxes and supplies. Enforcing such a system required extraordinary coercion. Diocletian threatened severe punishments for those who disobeyed his regulations, including confiscation of property, mutilation, blinding, and branding. The harshness of these measures reveals a fundamental truth about the reforms themselves. The severity was not a sign that the system was functioning smoothly, but that it was breaking down under immense strain. Diocletian was not presiding over a healthy empire. He was struggling to prevent a fragile one from collapsing altogether. Nevertheless, his reign marked a turning point. Through authoritarian rule, radical reform, and relentless enforcement, Diocletian succeeded, at least temporarily, in stabilizing the Roman Empire and pulling it back from the brink of dissolution. The price was high, but without his actions, Rome may not have survived the crisis of the 3rd century at all.